Harry Belafonte. At the height of his fame in the 1950s and 60s, Harry used his wealth and influence to bankroll the movement, ensuring that activists had the resources they needed to challenge segregation and injustice. A close friend of Martin Luther King Jr., Belafonte didn't just lend his voice to the cause. He put his money where his mouth was, often paying for King's travel, legal fees, and even supporting his family when funds were tight. But his commitment went beyond financial aid. In 1964, he and fellow actor Sidney Poitier risked their lives, smuggling $70,000 into Mississippi to support the Freedom Summer voter registration campaign. The Ku Klux Klan caught wind of their mission and the two were chased and shot at, but they completed their task, ensuring that black voters in the South had a fighting chance despite violent opposition. Belafonte also played a key role in elevating African artists and activists on the world stage, using his platform to amplify voices that might have otherwise gone unheard. His activism never faded. Well into his later years, he continued to push for social justice, reminding the world that, as he once told the New York Times, the vote is perhaps the single most important weapon in our arsenal. Even after his passing in 2023, his legacy remains a testament to the power of art, activism, and unwavering courage. Danny Thomas. Imagine standing on a stage, desperate for a break, unsure if the next gig will come or if the dream will slip away forever. That was Danny Thomas in the early 1940s, just another struggling actor praying for a sign. In a moment of faith, he turned to St. Jude, the patron saint of hopeless causes, vowing that if success ever found him, he would build something in his honor. And when fame finally arrived, Thomas didn't just keep his promise, he built a legacy that would save millions of lives. In 1962, at the height of his career, he founded St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, a place where no child would ever be turned away because of money. It wasn't just a hospital, it was a revolution. At the time, childhood leukemia had a survival rate of just 4%, but thanks to the groundbreaking research at St. Jude, that number has soared to over 90%. And Thomas didn't just lend his name. He worked relentlessly, fundraising, advocating, and making sure that no family ever received a bill for treatment, travel, housing, or food. Today, St. Jude stands as one of the most respected medical institutions in the world, a testament to a promise made in desperation and fulfilled with unwavering devotion. Danny Thomas may have been a star, but his greatest role wasn't on screen. It was in ensuring that no child would fight cancer alone. Audrey Hepburn. Before the world knew her as the epitome of grace and elegance, Audrey Hepburn was a teenager risking her life in Nazi-occupied Netherlands. While many recognize her for her iconic roles in films like Breakfast at Tiffany's, few know that she worked as a courier for the Dutch resistance, delivering secret messages hidden in her shoes. She witnessed the horrors of war firsthand. Her uncle was executed, and she and her family endured the brutal hunger winter of 1944, an experience that left her with lasting empathy for those suffering from famine. That empathy became the driving force behind her humanitarian work. After World War II, UNICEF provided her with food and medical aid, a kindness she never forgot. Decades later, when she had the world's attention, she used her fame to return the favor. As a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, she traveled to some of the most devastated regions on Earth: Ethiopia, Bangladesh, Vietnam, bringing global awareness to the plight of starving children. She didn't just lend her name to the cause. She went to the front lines, walking through famine-stricken villages, holding dying children in her arms, and pleading with world leaders to take action. Even in her final years, when cancer ravaged her body, she refused to slow down. In 1992, just months before her passing, she visited Somalia, witnessing the devastation of famine and war. Despite her deteriorating health, she stood before cameras and world leaders, her voice unwavering as she described the suffering she had seen. It was a final act of defiance against indifference. For her tireless efforts, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, but her true legacy isn't in the accolades. It's in the millions of lives she touched. Today, her granddaughter, Emma Ferrer, continues her work, ensuring that Audrey Hepburn's mission to help the world's most vulnerable never fades. She wasn't just a Hollywood legend, she was a warrior for humanity. Paul Newman. Paul Newman wasn't just a Hollywood legend, he was a force for good. At the height of his fame, he could have easily indulged in the lavish lifestyle of a movie star. Instead, he built a philanthropic empire. It all started in 1982 when he launched Newman's Own, a food company with an unprecedented business model. 100% of the profits would go to charity. Skeptics doubted it would last, but Newman proved them wrong. By the time of his passing in 2008, the company had donated hundreds of millions to causes ranging from children's education to healthcare. But Newman didn't stop there. He founded the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp, a summer retreat for children with serious illnesses, giving them a chance to experience joy and adventure without financial burden. His dedication to philanthropy wasn't just a side project, it was his life's work. Despite his wealth, he lived modestly, choosing to pour his fortune into making the world better rather than personal luxuries. And his legacy? It's still thriving. Newman's Own continues to generate millions for charity, proving that his vision wasn't just a Hollywood dream, it was a real lasting impact. Ella Fitzgerald. Ella Fitzgerald's voice didn't just captivate audiences, it shattered barriers. Born in the early 20th century, she endured a troubled childhood, bouncing between relatives and reform schools before a talent contest at the Apollo Theater changed everything. Dubbed the First Lady of Song, Fitzgerald's rise to fame wasn't just about her unmatched vocal ability, it was about resilience in the face of segregation. At a time when black artists were routinely denied opportunities, she refused to perform at segregated venues, forcing the industry to reckon with its own injustices. One of her most pivotal moments came in the 1950s when Marilyn Monroe, recognizing Fitzgerald's brilliance, personally called the owner of the Macombo nightclub, a major Hollywood hotspot, and insisted Ella be booked. Monroe promised to sit front and center every night, ensuring the press would follow. The result? Fitzgerald became the first black artist to perform at the venue, opening doors for countless others. But her impact didn't stop there. Quietly and without fanfare, she donated to education programs for underprivileged children, ensuring future generations had opportunities she never did. Her legacy isn't just in the music, it's in the proof that talent, when paired with courage, can challenge the very foundations of society. Today, her influence echoes in every artist who refuses to accept the status quo. Bob Hope. Bob Hope wasn't just a comedian, he was a lifeline of laughter for soldiers facing the unimaginable. From World War II to the Gulf War, he took his show on the road, performing in war zones where danger lurked just beyond the spotlight. For over 50 years, his USO tours brought joy to those who needed it most, making him a beloved figure among military personnel. But it wasn't just about the jokes. Hope's commitment ran deeper. He donated millions to hospitals, veterans' causes, and disaster relief efforts, ensuring his impact extended far beyond the stage. His dedication was so profound that Congress named him an honorary veteran, an incredibly rare recognition for a civilian. Hope understood that morale could be just as vital as firepower, and he spent his life proving that laughter truly was a powerful weapon. Roberto Clemente. At the height of his career with the Pittsburgh Pirates, Roberto Clemente used his platform to fight for racial equality, refusing to be silent about the discrimination Latino and black players faced in Major League Baseball. But Clemente's impact stretched far beyond the diamond. He was a relentless humanitarian, personally delivering aid to Latin American countries devastated by natural disasters. When bureaucracy threatened to slow relief efforts, he took matters into his own hands, ensuring supplies reached those who needed them most. In December of 1972, after a catastrophic earthquake struck Nicaragua, Clemente boarded a plane loaded with relief supplies, determined to oversee the mission himself. Tragically, the aircraft crashed into the Atlantic, taking his life. But his legacy didn't end there. His death sparked the creation of the Roberto Clemente Award, given annually to MLB players who exemplify extraordinary community service. His story is a testament to the idea that greatness isn't just measured in home runs or championships, it's defined by how much you give to others. Josephine Baker. At the height of her fame in the 1930s and 40s, Josephine was one of the most famous entertainers in the world, dazzling audiences with her electrifying performances. But behind the glitz and glamour, she was risking her life as a spy for the French resistance during World War II. While performing for high-ranking officials, she gathered intelligence and smuggled messages written in invisible ink on her sheet music. Her courage didn't stop there. After the war, she turned her attention to civil rights, refusing to perform for segregated audiences in the United States, and using her platform to push for racial equality. She even adopted 12 children from different ethnic backgrounds, calling them her Rainbow Tribe, a living testament to the idea that humanity could live in harmony. France recognized her bravery and activism, awarding her the prestigious Legion of Honor. Even when fame faded, her commitment to justice never wavered. Josephine Baker didn't just entertain, she changed the world. Grace Kelly. At the peak of her Hollywood reign, Grace Kelly was untouchable. An Academy Award-winning actress, a style icon, a household name. Then, in a move that stunned the world, she walked away from it all. She left behind the flashing cameras and red carpets to become Princess of Monaco, embracing a new role that would define her legacy far beyond the silver screen. But Grace wasn't content with just wearing a crown. She wanted to use her influence to change lives. She launched the Princess Grace Foundation, a beacon of support for emerging artists and humanitarian causes, ensuring that creativity and compassion thrived under her patronage. Her heart, however, was firmly with those in need. She devoted herself to children's hospitals, orphanages, and women's rights, personally visiting the sick and the struggling, bringing warmth and dignity to places often forgotten. Even with the weight of royal duties, she remained hands-on, proving that true nobility isn't about titles, it's about action. And though her life was tragically cut short in 1982, her mission lived on. The foundation she built continues to uplift artists and fund charitable initiatives across the globe, a testament to the enduring spirit of a woman who never stopped giving. Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis Jr. wasn't just a dazzling entertainer, he was a force for change in an industry that often tried to keep him in the shadows. At the height of his fame, he refused to perform at segregated venues, demanding equal treatment not just for himself, but for all black artists who came after him. He was a key figure in desegregating Las Vegas casinos, refusing to stay in hotels that wouldn't accommodate black performers. His influence stretched far beyond the stage. He marched alongside Martin Luther King Jr., using his celebrity to amplify the civil rights movement. But breaking barriers wasn't easy. As the first black member of the Rat Pack, Davis faced backlash from both Hollywood and the public, yet he never backed down. His courage in the face of discrimination helped pave the way for future generations of black entertainers, proving that talent and perseverance could shatter even the most rigid barriers. His legacy isn't just in the songs he sang or the films he starred in, it's in the doors he kicked open for those who came after him. Shirley Temple. At just 3 years old, Shirley Temple became the face of hope during one of America's darkest times, the Great Depression. Her infectious smile and tap-dancing charm lifted spirits when the world seemed to be crumbling. By the time she was a teenager, she had already been Hollywood's biggest box office draw, but instead of clinging to fame, she chose a different stage: global diplomacy. After stepping away from acting, Temple became a U.S. ambassador, first to Ghana in the 1970s and later to Czechoslovakia during one of the most pivotal moments in modern history. In 1989, as communism collapsed across Eastern Europe, Temple played a crucial role in supporting Czechoslovakia's transition to democracy. While the world watched the Velvet Revolution unfold, she was on the ground using her influence to facilitate peaceful change. Her work in international relations earned her widespread respect, proving she was far more than just a child star. Temple's legacy is twofold. She brought joy to millions on screen and helped shape a freer world off it. Few could claim to have changed history in two completely different arenas, but Shirley Temple did exactly that. Jackie Robinson. In the spring of 1947, Jackie Robinson stepped onto Ebbets Field and into history. As the first black player in Major League Baseball, he faced a storm of racism, boos from the stands, threats in the mail, and even hostility from his own teammates. But Robinson didn't just endure, he excelled. With electrifying speed and unshakable composure, he won Rookie of the Year, proving that talent knew no color. Yet his impact stretched far beyond the diamond. Off the field, Robinson became a fierce advocate for civil rights, working alongside Martin Luther King Jr. and the NAACP to push for racial justice. He understood that his presence in baseball was bigger than himself. It was a challenge to America's deep-seated segregation. Even after he hung up his cleats, he kept fighting, supporting black-owned businesses and demanding equal opportunities in sports and beyond. Today, his number 42 is retired across all of Major League Baseball, a rare and permanent tribute to a man whose courage reshaped not just a sport, but a nation. Marlon Brando. At the peak of his career, he made a move that stunned the industry. In 1973, Brando won the Academy Award for Best Actor for his legendary role in The Godfather. But instead of basking in the glory, he sent Native American activist Sacheen Littlefeather to the stage to reject the Oscar on his behalf. Her brief but powerful speech condemned Hollywood's treatment of Native Americans, turning what should have been a routine award ceremony into a moment of reckoning. The backlash was immediate. Boos echoed through the auditorium, and John Wayne reportedly had to be restrained from storming the stage. But Brando wasn't in this for applause. He had long been an advocate for indigenous rights, using his platform and wealth to support Native American communities, even donating land to their causes. His activism didn't stop there. He marched with Martin Luther King Jr., funded civil rights movements, and consistently lent his voice to those who had been silenced. Hollywood may have seen him as difficult, but Brando saw himself as something else, a man with a responsibility to use his influence for something greater than fame. And while his choices made him a controversial figure, his legacy as an artist who refused to play by the rules in the name of justice remains undeniable. Beverly Sills. Beverly Sills was an opera star who left a wonderful impact on the world. At the height of her career, she shattered barriers for women in classical music, proving that talent and charisma could make opera mainstream. But what truly set her apart was what she did offstage. Sills dedicated much of her later life to philanthropy, raising millions for children with disabilities. Her personal struggles, both of her children were born with disabilities, fueled her mission. She became chairwoman of the March of Dimes, helping fund critical research and treatment for birth defects. And she didn't stop there. Using her fame, she made opera more accessible to the public, bringing high art to audiences who had never set foot in an opera house. Her tireless charity work earned her the Presidential Medal of Freedom, proving that her legacy wasn't just about music, it was about making the world a better place. Muhammad Ali. At the height of his career in the late 1960s, he made a decision that shook the world. He refused to be drafted into the Vietnam War. He stood in front of the press and declared, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong," knowing full well that his stance would cost him everything. And it did. He was stripped of his heavyweight title, banned from boxing for over 3 years, and vilified by much of the American public. But Ali wasn't fighting for belts. He was fighting for justice. He saw the hypocrisy of being asked to serve a country that still denied Black Americans basic civil rights, and he refused to back down. Even after reclaiming his title in the ring, Ali's real victories were outside of it. He used his fame to amplify the civil rights movement, speaking out against racism, inequality, and oppression. He traveled the world, meeting with leaders, advocating for peace, and later dedicating his life to humanitarian work. When Parkinson's disease threatened to silence him, he refused to let it. Instead, he used his platform to raise awareness and millions in funding for research. Ali's legacy isn't just about his lightning-fast footwork or his legendary fights, it's about his unwavering courage. He proved that true champions don't just fight for titles, they fight for something bigger than themselves. And in doing so, he became more than a sports icon. He became a symbol of resistance, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Frank Sinatra. Behind the swagger and the spotlight, Sinatra funneled millions into charities, supporting children's hospitals, veterans, and civil rights causes. But his impact wasn't just financial. In the mid-20th century, Las Vegas was a booming entertainment hub, but it was also deeply segregated. Black performers like Sammy Davis Jr. could headline a show, but were barred from staying at the very hotels where they performed. Sinatra refused to accept this. He used his clout to demand change, refusing to play venues that discriminated against black artists. His influence helped break down racial barriers in the city, paving the way for integration in the entertainment industry. His commitment to civil rights extended beyond the stage. He was a vocal supporter of Martin Luther King Jr., using his platform to promote racial equality at a time when speaking out carried real risks. And despite his tough guy persona, Sinatra had a habit of helping struggling artists and friends in need, often without any publicity. He was known to quietly cover medical bills, pay off debts, and lend a hand to those who had fallen on hard times. His generosity and activism made him more than just a legendary singer. He was a force for good in Hollywood and beyond, proving that power and influence could be wielded for something greater than fame. Gene Kelly. While dazzling audiences with his effortless dance moves and charm, Gene was also quietly breaking barriers behind the scenes. At a time when racial segregation was deeply entrenched in the entertainment industry, Kelly refused to play by the rules. He insisted on casting black dancers in his films, ensuring they had a place in an industry that often shut them out. One of the most striking examples was his decision to feature the legendary Nicholas brothers in the film The Pirate in the late 1940s. A bold move in an era when interracial performances were rare. Kelly didn't just want diversity on screen, he wanted equality behind the scenes too. During the McCarthy era, when Hollywood was gripped by fear and paranoia, he stood firm against the blacklist, refusing to abandon artists whose careers were being destroyed by political hysteria. He worked with blacklisted writers and performers, ensuring their talents weren't erased from history. But Kelly's impact didn't stop at Hollywood's doorstep. He was a fierce advocate for arts education, believing that dance and music could uplift communities and change lives. He dedicated time and resources to programs that brought the arts to underprivileged children, ensuring that creativity wasn't a privilege reserved for the elite. His legacy isn't just in the way he redefined dance on film, it's in the doors he opened for future generations of artists, proving that talent should never be limited by race, politics, or privilege. Cary Grant. Cary Grant was the epitome of Hollywood charm. Suave, sophisticated, and effortlessly cool. But behind the tailored suits and debonair smile was a man whose generosity knew no bounds. Unlike many stars of his era, Grant didn't seek the spotlight for his philanthropy. He quietly funneled millions into children's hospitals and medical research, ensuring that life-saving treatments could reach those who needed them most. His support for cancer research helped fund early studies that paved the way for groundbreaking treatments, a contribution that continues to save lives today. His kindness didn't stop there. After World War II, Grant turned his attention to war orphans, personally funding education and housing for children displaced by the devastation. He understood that true legacy wasn't built on box office numbers but on the lives he could change. Despite his status as one of Hollywood's most bankable stars, he spent much of his free time volunteering for charities, lending his influence to causes that mattered. Grant's generosity was never about public recognition. It was about doing the right thing. He proved that being a leading man wasn't just about playing heroes on screen, but about being one in real life. Decades after his passing, his philanthropic efforts still ripple through the world, a reminder that true greatness is measured not by fame, but by the lives we touch. Dizzy Gillespie. Not only a jazz virtuoso, Dizzy was a cultural diplomat, a mentor, and a force for social change. At the height of the Cold War, when tensions between nations ran high, Gillespie took his music beyond American borders. As part of a U.S. State Department initiative, he led jazz ensembles on international tours, using the universal language of music to foster goodwill and understanding. His performances in the Middle East, Latin America, and Eastern Europe weren't just concerts. They were conversations, breaking down barriers and proving that jazz was more than entertainment. It was diplomacy in action. But Gillespie's impact didn't stop at international relations. He was a mentor to countless young musicians, shaping the next generation of jazz artists. Names like Miles Davis and John Coltrane found inspiration in his groundbreaking approach to bebop. He didn't just teach technique. He instilled a sense of artistic freedom, pushing musicians to experiment and innovate. His generosity extended beyond music, as he actively fought against racial segregation in America. Gillespie used his platform to challenge injustice, refusing to play in segregated venues and advocating for civil rights. One of his most enduring contributions was his role in popularizing Afro-Cuban jazz. Collaborating with Cuban percussionist Chano Pozo, Gillespie infused American jazz with Latin rhythms, creating a sound that resonated across cultures. This fusion didn't just change jazz, it broadened its reach, bringing global influences into the heart of American music. His legacy isn't just in the notes he played, it's in the bridges he built, connecting people through rhythm, melody, and an unshakable belief in music's power to unite. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our new videos each week. Thanks for watching.